All right, today we're diving into this really powerful idea, one that comes from ancient philosophy, but has been proven true time and time again. It's this: what if the very things we try our best to avoid are actually the key to our success? I mean, really think about it for a second. That project you're stuck on, that problem at work, maybe even a person who's just standing in your path. We all have these things, right? But what if that big roadblock? What if it's not actually a roadblock at all? What if it's a signpost pointing you exactly where you need to go? Now that is the incredible idea we're going to unpack today. So to really get a grip on this, let's kick things off with a classic story that just perfectly nails this concept. Okay, so the story goes, there's this ancient Zen tale about a king. And this king, he looks at his people and thinks, they've gotten a little soft, a little entitled. So he comes up with a little social experiment. He has his men haul a massive boulder right into the middle of a main road, completely blocking it. And then he just hides nearby to see what happens. And what he saw was, well, pretty much what you'd expect, right? The kingdom's wealthiest merchants and officials, they'd come along, see the boulder, and just walk around it. A lot of them complained, loudly blaming the king for not keeping the roads clear, but not a single one of them actually did anything about it. But then, a lone peasant comes along. And he is different. He doesn't complain. He doesn't turn back. Instead, he looks around, finds a big, sturdy tree branch, wedges it under the rock as a lever, and with a whole lot of effort, he finally manages to push that massive thing off the road. So what does he find underneath, right where the boulder used to be? A purse, just stuffed with gold coins, and a note from the king. And this is where it all clicks. The lesson is crystal clear. The obstacle wasn't just in the way, it was the way to a reward that nobody else could even see. Okay, but this isn't just some old folk tale, right? This idea is actually a cornerstone of Stoic philosophy, and it was maybe best explained by one of the most powerful men who ever walked the earth. Almost 2,000 years ago, the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote these exact words down in his private journal. And look, this wasn't just some pretty poetry, this was his operating system for life. And it wasn't forged in some peaceful ivory tower, it was hammered out in the face of just unbelievable hardship. I mean, just look at what this guy was dealing with. We're talking nearly constant war, a plague that was devastating his empire, even betrayal from one of his closest allies. And yet he saw each of these huge challenges not as burdens, but as opportunities. Chances to practice things like patience, courage, and creativity. He truly lived this philosophy under the most extreme pressure imaginable. So, the big question is, how do we actually apply this emperor's secret to our lives? Well, the Stoics made it practical. They broke it down into a simple 3-step framework. All right, here's how it works. It's a 3-part process: perception, action, and will. First up is perception. That's all about how you see the problem. Next is action, the actual energy and creativity you bring to the table. And finally, there's will. That's your inner strength, your ability to endure and just keep going. So let's start at the beginning, perception. Yeah, everything kicks off right here inside your own mind. The whole discipline of perception is about one thing: seeing things for what they actually are, objectively, not through the lens of our fears. Let's take a young John D. Rockefeller as an example. It's 1857 and a massive financial crisis just hits. I mean, everyone is losing their minds, right? People are panicking as their fortunes just evaporate. But Rockefeller, who's just starting his career, he decides to see it differently. He called it his baptism in the market, a chance to learn while everyone else was freaking out. And this really breaks it down perfectly. You've got the objective fact: the market has crashed. Plain and simple. But then you have the subjective story we tell ourselves about it. This is a disaster. I'm completely ruined. What the Stoics teach us is to separate those two things. Rockefeller saw the objective fact of the crash, but he didn't attach the story of disaster to it. For him, it was simply an education. This exact mindset is alive and well today with investors like Warren Buffett. His famous saying is basically pure Stoic perception in action. It's all about resisting that emotional herd mentality so you can see the opportunities that other people are too afraid to notice. That right there is the power of perception. But okay, changing your perception is just the first step. Once you see the situation for what it really is, you have to act. And we're not talking about just any action. It has to be deliberate, it has to be creative, and it has to be persistent. Let's talk about Amelia Earhart. She had this dream of being a great aviator. One day the phone rings with a so-called opportunity. But just get a load of these terms. They were basically offering her a spot as human cargo on a super dangerous flight. She wouldn't get paid, she wouldn't even get to fly the plane, and oh yeah, she very well might die. So what would you do? I mean, honestly, most of us would be insulted, right? We'd probably hang up the phone, we'd complain that the conditions weren't perfect, and just wait for a better offer to come along. But Amelia Earhart, she said yes. Why on earth would she do that? Because she understood the most important thing is just to get started. To take whatever opening you're given, no matter how small or imperfect it seems. She knew that once she was in the air, both figuratively and literally, she could build momentum from there. And sure enough, less than 5 years later, she was the one flying solo across the Atlantic. Okay, so we've looked at seeing clearly and acting boldly. But there's a third piece, and it's what holds everything else together. It's the part that kicks in when things get really tough. And that piece is what the Stoics called the will. Think of it as your inner fortress. It's the strength that lets you endure when your first or 10th attempt fails. It's about accepting the things you can't change and having the persistence to keep hammering away at what you can. Ultimately, it's about understanding that the things blocking you aren't just annoying problems. They're actually opportunities. Opportunities to test yourself, to build your character, and to grow stronger. So the next time you're up against it, the next time you face a big challenge, try not to ask, why is this happening to me? Instead, see that obstacle for what it is. It's asking you a question, a much more important question. What are you made of? And that's a question that only you, through your perception, your action, and your will, can truly answer.